Matt, Tanaya, John, and welcome to the November meeting of the Local Planning Agency Board for Pinellas County, Florida. Today's hearing by the Local Planning Agency, or LPA, is being held to review zoning requests, land use plan amendment requests, and other items relative to the county's planning and growth management program. The Local Planning Agency is an independent advisory board charged with reviewing and making recommendation to the Pinellas County Board of County Commissioners on cases to be heard today. The Board of County Commissioners will make the final decision on each case at a separate public hearing currently scheduled to be held on December the 12th, 2023 at 6 p.m. The procedure for today, each case heard today will be as follows. First, staff will make a brief presentation not to exceed 20 minutes. Then the applicant will make a brief presentation not to exceed 20 minutes. We will then hear from proponents who will have 3 minutes each unless they are representing a group of 5 or more, in which case they will be given 10 minutes. In order to get the 10 minutes, the non-speakers must be present and waive their time. We will then hear from opponents who will be given 3 minutes each unless representing a group of 5 or more, in which case they will also be given 10 minutes. Just like with proponents, for opponents, non-speakers must be present and waive their time in order to get the 10 minutes. Then the applicant will be given an opportunity to close, answer questions, or respond to any concerns raised by the opponents or proponents for a period of time not to exceed 5 minutes. Before your presentation today, please give your name and address for the record. All testimony needs to be under oath, so if you have not been sworn in already and you plan to testify, please rise now and be sworn. Do we have anyone who has not? Okay, I see Mr. Pressman. Anybody else in the room who wishes to? Okay. All right. Is there anybody else in the room who is intending to speak and hasn't taken an oath? I'm not seeing anyone. Also, please fill out the slip on the table and present it to the clerk before you speak. There will not be continuing rebuttal, so please try to present all information and concerns while you are at the podium. If you plan to provide letters, written comments, studies, or other documents in response to the LPA's findings and recommendations, those must be received by the Planning Department 15 days prior to the Board of County Commissioners meeting in order to be included with the record that will be transmitted to the Board of County Commissioners. As a special note, the Board of County Commissioners hearings will be held at 333 Chestnut Street in the Palm Room until further notice. With that, let's move into the agenda. All right. The first item on our agenda is item 2, approval of the minutes. Board members, do I have any questions or discussion on the minutes for October the 11th, 2023? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval of the minutes.
Second. Dugan. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, like sign. The motion passes unanimously. We now move on to Section 3A, and these are proposed ordinances. And 3A1 is FLU 23-01 La Mirage Beauty Salon, Inc. Mr. McAteer, or Mr. Bailey, is it the intent of staff and the applicant to give a combined presentation?
Yes.
Mr. Pressman, do you intend to give a combined presentation? Excellent. And Mr. McAteer, so that we're clear on our procedure, there's one presentation, but we have to hold a separate vote on each case.
At the end, we'll have a vote on the land use under the fairly debatable standard, and then we'll have a vote on the zoning under the quasi-judicial standard.
All right. So staff, when you are ready, give your presentation for FLU 23-01 and ZON 23-01.
Thank you. Glenn Bailey, Planning Division Manager. So this request, subject property is 3.3 acres at 3720 and 3730 Tampa Road in Palm Harbor. The future land use map amendment portion is from residential office general to institutional, and the zoning atlas amendments from GO general office to GI general institutional. It also includes a development agreement regarding size limitations, size and use limitations. An existing use is a beauty salon and office. Proposed use has not been specified. The LP may remember this property. You heard a case similar to this on the same property back in May of 2023. The original request then was basically to request for the employment land use and the E2 employment to zoning instead of the institutional land use and the GI general institutional zoning. Staff did not support this. A local planning agency recommended denial, mainly based on its location along scenic non-commercial corridor and some issues with the surrounding properties on what the larger range of uses that could be allowed, the employment, land use, employment zoning. In July, the Board of County Commissioners continued this case to allow the applicant time to amend the request to something more appropriate in the location that this property is in. And that's what we have now. We have the change to request to institutional districts. So the location of this property, you see the south side of Tampa Road. It's west of CR 11 or McMullen Booth Road, and it's east of US 19. You see the lake there is Lake St. George. And it's a lot of apartments, multifamily, single-family attached development in this area. There's also some offices to the basically the southeast along where Tampa Road connects to CR 611. There's commercial uses there, Target, Publix, things like that. So it's kind of a mix of uses in the area. There's also some environmental lands, and you'll see that in the maps here. The future land use map on the left is current. You see the green is preservation areas. Part of this property overall is in preservation. That part is not changing. Those are wetlands and conservation areas. So the amendment area is kind of a strange shape like that because that's the upland, constitutes the upland area of the properties. So on the left you have the purple residential office general. On the right you have the more blue institutional uses category. And the yellow surrounding this is all residential. As far as the zoning goes, the area is dominated by RPD, residential plan development. That's what this property used to be back in the 90s when it was changed to an office use. Office district. On the left, you see general office district. On the right, you see the change to general institutional. And you have a mixture, of, again, of zoning districts around the intersection of CR 11, 611, and Tampa Road, where you have some commercial uses there, office uses as well. Here you see the subject property from Tampa Road, looking from Tampa Road to, this is where this the beauty salon. On the left is the beauty salon, and on the right is the office use. You see Tampa Road, and it's a scenic non-commercial corridor, as mentioned before. Additional information on land use. The current residential office general land use allows residential, office, personal services, light manufacturing, and R&D uses, 15 residential units per acre maximum in this location, a 0.5 floor area ratio for non-residential uses. Proposed institutional land use allows things that you'd think it might allow in institutional, like schools, medical office, assembly, ALFs, civic, fraternal, government buildings, things like that. At up to 12.5 residential units per acre and a 0.65 FAR for non-residential use. So the higher FAR, which is important in this case, and I'll get to that in a moment. As far as zoning, the current general office zoning allows a full range of office uses, general office, medical office, etc. Maximum building height is 75 feet. It's modified by deed restrictions per a past development agreement. I'll get into that history as well in a moment. Proposed general institutional zoning allows, along the same lines as the institutional land use, ALS, medical office, fraternal clubs, parks, recreation, museums, daycares, government uses, meeting halls, schools, things like that. Maximum building height is lower at 50 feet, and it would be modified by proposed development agreement. Some of the site history is it's part of a master plan development. You remember seeing a lot of residential plan development surrounding this property. It's originally a church built in 1988. And 76% of the development rights of the original development rights on that property were transferred to other parts of the master plan. So more apartments were built in those surrounding areas based on the development rights pulled off of this property. So only 24% of development potential remains. The church building was redeveloped into a beauty salon. And there was a zoning land use amendment in 1999, and it included the first development agreement, changed it from residential to limited office, and the building area was limited to 10,464 square feet. That's based on only having that 24% development rights left. And that was based on the FAR, the floor area ratio at the time, the maximum FAR. The second building was constructed in 2002. That's at 3720 Tampa Road, and that's where your offices are. There was a second zoning land use amendment and development agreement in 2013-2014, and went from limited office to general office, which is what it is today. It changed the wetland areas to preservation, increased the building area limitation to 14,690 square feet. And the deed restrictions make limitations permanent. Those are still enforced, and no additional construction occurred. So what increased the building area, how it was increased was that underlying future land use category had a higher FAR, so a higher intensity available to it. It's still at 24%, but the base intensity increased. So you went from 10,000 and something square feet to 14,690. Proposed development agreement today would terminate those 2014 deed restrictions and increase the building area limitation to 23,314 square feet. It's still 24% of the otherwise maximum building potential under the institutional land use. That has a higher FAR. It went from 0.5 to 0.65. So you have more intensity as a base. So it's going to increase that to 23,314 square feet. Normally it would be, again, it's only 24% of what it could be normally, so it could be much larger. It permits all the uses allowed in the general institutional zoning district. A new deed restriction would make the building area limitation permanent. Wetlands with state preservation, and again, there's no concept plan included. As mentioned earlier, Tampa Road is a designated scenic non-commercial corridor per the comprehensive plan, and the intent of that is to preserve scenic nature and traffic capacity of Tampa Road. Low-density residential is common, and mixed-use nodes at major intersections like the one you saw there at McMullen Booth Road allow more intense development. And importantly, institutional land uses are common along scenic corridors. You think about McMullen Booth Road, East Lake Road, there's a lot of ALS, there's a hospital there, there's a lot of medical offices along that corridor, also places of worship. This is along the same line, so this is a common thing on scenic corridors. So the recommendation for the land use case, FLU 2301, a proposed land use amendment from ROG, Residential Office General to Institutional. The subject property is located along scenic non-commercial corridor where institutional uses are common. That's a big difference between what he was asking for before, which is employment, which are not common. They're not appropriate for scenic corridors, however institutional designations are. The development agreement limits the building area. It's compatible with surrounding uses and well buffered. It's consistent with the comprehensive plan. Staff recommends approval. As far as the zoning case, ZON 2301, proposed zoning amendment from General Office, General Institutional, and the development agreement. This is, again, the subject property located in a scenic non-commercial corridor where institutional uses are common. Development agreement limits the building area to 24% of its development potential. Otherwise, it's compatible with surrounding uses and well buffered and consistent with the comprehensive plan. Again, staff recommends approval. As the chair mentioned, it's scheduled to the Board of County Commissioners on December 12th at 6 p.m. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Bailey. Board members, do you have any questions for staff? No. I don't see any. All right, at this time, we'll hear from the applicant.
Thank you. Okay. I believe we're going to project this to the rear. Is that correct? Or, well, actually, I see this is up here. Is the PowerPoint on your monitor?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Okay. Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg, Florida. Appreciate being here. I will say that Mr. Bailey's report is all-encompassing and really extremely well done. So I'm going to flip through this a little bit rather than repeat a lot or some of the information that Mr. Bailey's presented. So as indicated, this is both the future land use amendment and zoning application together. Glenn has gone over the specifics, as you can see on the cover page here. He's also covered that we had been here previously, and at the result of the Board of County Commissioners, we chose to go back and revise the application and follow a direction discussed with staff, which is why we're here today. And of course, as you're aware, the DRC has voted in support of this request prior to today. You've been well briefed as to the location, which is in North County, as to the site on Tampa Road. I will add that Tampa Road is a busy arterial, carries between 38,500 to 43,481 trips per day. I think everyone's well aware that Tampa Road is a major arterial roadway. Let me grab a document if I may. I don't want to forget to put this in the record for you. The site is composed of 2 parcels, as you can see here. Here's a couple additional photos of what's at the site. It's a very nice site, very well developed. And 2 important findings that Glenn's already reviewed with you is that institutional uses are considered generally appropriate along scenic corridors, many similar cases. And non-residential future land use categories may be applied if they're compatible with the surrounding categories. And again, he's reviewed those for you, and those were directions that we certainly agreed with. I also want to add, just FYI, the site is in a low flood risk and not within the coastal high hazard as well. Staff report lists a long list of goals and objections from the comprehensive plan. Of course, they found that the site is consistent. You've seen the future land use category, and there's a major medical at the corner. I wanted to show you a couple aerials. This is of the other medical complex, which is just down the street. And as Glenn indicated, there are extreme natural screening and buffering. So as you can see from the aerials, it really is nestled in some substantial buffering in terms of the neighboring properties, as you can see here. And between the conservation and drainage easements, which you can see in yellow here, really do eat up quite a bit of the property significantly. I have it at about 34% by my accounting. We fall into the use characteristics of the categories as Glenn has reviewed with you. What institutional uses, the purpose of them, which meets the definition as is proposed today, and the GI district, again, in terms of the services and uses potential. Just 3 quick comprehensive policies, just additionally to present to you, which is objective 1.2 is to maintain a land development code that does respond to the unique challenges of infill and development with incorporated, which is what I think this site applies to, and is a policy to take into account unique and singular type conditions. Consider creative regulatory solutions to support development, which I think staff has, in a sense, agreed to or has aligned with that. And provide supportive office and industrial uses to support target industries and broaden the range of employment. So in summary, the site is very much impacted by conservation easements and wetlands, located in major arterial, meets a lot of the comp plan policies and support. In regard to the development agreement, I do have the signed and sealed and notarized document here. This is a copy or exact copy of what's in the record, so I would like to put this officially in the record if I may. So with that, we appreciate your time and also taking the best requests both first and last today. We appreciate that, that order on the agenda. And we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pressman. Board members, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Pressman, good morning. I noticed that there's no plans yet as to what will go on this site. What will happen to the existing business that's there now, the salon? That will need to go under this new category, correct?
Well, it will be allowed to continue as it is, as a, using this more simpler term, grandfathered use. Olga has run the site for a couple decades, and the interest for the property, quite frankly, has been medical. That's been the interest. So we'll either continue as it is with Olga or to a new owner, or again, really the only sole interest of the site has been medical. So those would be the 2 potential uses as we see them.
Thank you.
All right, board members, any other?
So you, as part of your presentation, you talked about policy 4.11 and looking at target industries. So, and sort of along the same lines of the question that was already asked, since there's no plan, how does medical fit in with the target industries for Pinellas County?
Well, I think that's, I will say, I think that's a bit of a target, a bit of a tangent issue in terms of the policies, because we do read along other range. My understanding of target industries primarily is higher paid folks, higher paid employment, which medical would bring in. So that would be my best answer to you.
Any follow-up questions?
Also wanted to ask the, so right now it's restricted to non-residential uses. That would potentially change.
That would continue. The general institutional zoning does not allow residential uses.
So, but now you could fit ALF up under there, which is a different type of residential use, I suppose. And so, along those lines, just wanted to ask, originally, were there concerns about any type of residential use there? I know development rights were transferred elsewhere, but, and I think that was probably to develop other, other developments in the area, but were there concerns when the original agreement was made and everything was transferred about having any type of residential use there, or any history there that we have?
Not that I'm aware of. There's not in the CHHA, coastal hazard area, so there's not really any prohibition or reason to prohibit residential uses there. It was just a church, so they were able to transfer, development rights off of the church.
Got it. And what we talked about in the scenic corridor, their institutional being an appropriate use and common. Where is the closest institutional use to this site today along that corridor?
There are other nursing homes and ALS along Tampa Road between US 19 and McMullen Booth. There's several there, particularly to the west of where Lake St. George comes in.
I was to the west. Okay.
There's some large ALFs there.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Bailey, it's been a few years since I've asked about, or it's been a while since I've had to deal with this section of the code, but the process of obtaining an assisted living facility, doesn't our code have some type of requirement that we have to show that there's a need for it during the approval process?
No, there's nothing in there about that. It's definitely permitted use in this district, and the old code had something about distance requirements between another ALF, but that's not in there now. For this type of
That's
facility.
what I was getting caught on.
That applies to community residential homes that embed into neighborhoods.
Got it.
So you can't have two within 1,000 feet of each other, and the reason is it could transform the character of the neighborhood. These large facilities like this are different. They're mainly along major roads and
Understood.
require a larger base density than you might have in a neighborhood.
Understood. Thank you. All right, board members, any other questions for the applicant? I'm not seeing any, so take a seat and
Thank you,
stay
Chair.
close.
If I may, just really quickly, I would like to thank Mr. Bailey. We've worked long and hard on this, and he's been great assistance. And Mr. McCader, if I'm pronouncing your name right.
It's McAteer.
Thank you. Working with our attorney and myself, limited, but with our attorney on the development agreement has been a work effort, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Understood. All right, at this time, I'll hear any members of the public who wish to speak in support of either case FLU 23-01 or ZON 23-01. Is there anybody in the room who wishes to speak in support of either of those two cases? All right, I'm not seeing any. I know at the beginning of this meeting, we didn't have internet. Is there, just in case it came back up and running, is there anyone online?
We have no one online at this time.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll hear from anyone who is in opposition to applications FLU 23-01 or ZON 23-01. Is there anybody in the room who wishes to speak in opposition to these two cases? All right, I don't see any. And I assume there's still nobody online?
That is correct.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Pressman, do you have any closing remarks you wish to make to the board?
I would just say very quickly, we've had quite a number of hearings as we've gone through the process. We've had no one that I recall that's come forward or submitted any letter of any concern. So we're clean in terms of the many hearings that have already been involved for folks in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for bringing that piece of housekeeping to the record. All right. So, board members, do you have any final questions for the applicant before we start the first of our two motions? Any discussion? All right. In that case, I will entertain a motion on FLU 23-01.
Make a motion for approval of FLU 23-01 based on staff recommendation.
Motion by Cueva.
Second.
Second by Laura Johnson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. The motion passes unanimously. At this time, do we have any questions or discussion about ZON 23-01? I'm not seeing anyone looking at me, so I will entertain a motion on ZON 23-01.
Move approval of zoning case 23-01 based on
Motion.
staff recommendation.
Motion by Cueva,
Second?
second by Laura Johnson. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. And the motion passes unanimously. All right. We don't have anything else on our agenda. Staff, do you have anything you need to bring to our attention?
Just that, as a result of my recent promotion to Planning Division Manager, this is the last time I will be sitting up here with the LPA. Some of you probably know Michael Schoderbach. He's going to be the one sitting up here. So we will still handle, as far as Planning Division, will handle land use cases. But Michael will be handling the zoning-related cases. So you will still see us down here presenting land use cases, but he will take over up here as staff support for the LPA.
Well, congratulations.
Congratulations.
And thank you to you specifically and the entire staff team for all the hard work that you guys do to support us and ultimately support the citizens of our community, of our county.
And of course, anytime a comp plan change comes through, it'll be us. It'll still be us. Yeah, you'll still see us.
All right. Any other final remarks, or are we good to adjourn, Mr. McAteer?
You are free to adjourn.
All right. In that case, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion second.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed, like sign. The motion passes unanimously. Have a happy and safe Thanksgiving.